session today to order. And thank you for being here and presenting and preparing this for us as a group. So thank you. Our district mission, vision, value statement, I'll fire them off real quick. The statement is educating each student to the highest standards while motivating them to reach their fullest potential and graduating them to college career and life ready. Our vision is that our schools are a place where children belong. Each student is known by name, strength, and need, and provided the education and opportunities to achieve success. Celebrating diversity, engaging the community, supporting the whole child, promoting and achieving academic excellence. At this point, I will hand over the meeting to our superintendent, Dr. Roth.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. We're all very excited to be here with you tonight to talk with you about trimester 1 and trimester 2 data and how we've been making progress this year. We want to make sure that we're helping our board members to understand what is it we do when we are measuring student progress, what are we looking at, what are the reports we're using, what is the data we're using, and give you an opportunity to reflect on, as you're looking at our data, any patterns or gaps and what maybe implications there are district-wide, and also individually for our school student data outcomes. But really tonight is an opportunity for our school leaders to really shine and talk about their data and also share with you, because each of them also have goals that they set that are very aligned with my goals. So they all have a student experience goal, an attendance goal, and an academic goal. And this will give them an opportunity to also give you a progress update on how they're making progress towards those goals for this year. So that's our goal tonight, is to share that data with you. We're going to take a look first at just some higher level data district-wide, and I'm going to have Dr. Ivy talk just a little bit about iReady and what that is, and also what our Try 1 and Try 2 data looks like from a district-wide perspective, and then we'll dig into our schools and hand it over to our leaders. At any time during the conversation, if you have questions, please feel free to pop in and ask principals questions about what they're talking about, or their data, or their progress towards goals. And I just add, we had a really great opportunity, Dr. Ivy and I and Director Bowen, we had a great opportunity this morning. We were on the CCC podcast, and we shared all the positive progress that we're making in our district, and there was a really nice article that already flew out the door before I think we even left the parking lot. It was great. With some doggy friends along for the podcast. It was great. So be sure to listen to that or read the article, because it is a celebration of a lot of the hard work that's been happening in our district. So with that, we're going to dig in. I am on slide 11, or page 11. It's a pretty big packet, but the pages are numbered. And so we're going to take a look first. I'm sorry, let me back it up. Slide 9. About iReady and what iReady is. So I'll turn the time over to Dr. Ivy. You want to talk a little bit about iReady?
Yeah. So this slide might look familiar if you have a really good long-term memory, but I'm going to go over it again because it's been a few months since we talked about it. So our district uses iReady as our interim assessments. And so our interim assessments are given 3 times a year, really as a way to assess growth. The great part about our district using iReady is that in accordance with the Accountability Act that was passed during the 2024 legislative session, or 25 legislative session, districts are required to have interim assessments, but we were already using them prior to being required, which is great because it is a pretty big financial undertaking, but our district is already doing that work. And so this is the second year that we've been giving our iReady assessments. They occur in both language arts and math, K through 8. iReady is not something that happens at the high school, unfortunately, but it is something that occurs K through 8. And then in our DLI program, we are actually able to give iReady in both English and Spanish, depending upon the grade level. So AJ will talk a little bit more about that when it comes to his slides. But really the goal is that iReady assessments are used to measure student progress. What we don't want to do is only rely on our OSAS data, our statewide assessments, because that really is a measure of trends over time. It's not really a measure of how our students are doing in the moment. It doesn't allow our teachers to actually use the data to be able to differentiate, determine correct interventions or enrichments for students. And so these really are adaptive diagnostic assessments to be able to, like I said, to progress monitor in language arts, reading, and math. So language arts / reading. And these really are used by teachers to guide instruction. They really support learning growth, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. So some teachers are going to use them individually to determine an intervention for a student. They might be used by a grade level team to say, oh, you know, we realize that this particular concept is something that our whole grade level needs to work on. They might be used by a whole school to say, wow, we really realize that our reading scores are not where they need to be. We are going to do some high dosage tutoring or a really strong intervention for the next couple of weeks. At the middle school, that actually happened. So we had a reading teacher and a language arts teacher who, because of the fall iReady assessments, realized that their students needed some more literacy. And so they're actually piloting a portion of iReady that is not something that we require teachers to use as an intervention to be able to support those foundational reading skills. So teachers really are building their muscle around using this in their classrooms. And we're really excited to share that we have growth, which is exciting, across the board. So we always want to see growth, and what you'll hear tonight is that we are seeing that in both math and reading across all grade levels, across all schools, which is really exciting. You go next, probably. So you have this in your packet, so you can probably see a little bit better than what's on the screen here, unless you have much better vision than I do, which you probably do. So what you can see is that top line. This is going to be the most recent assessment that was given, and this is what we call the winter assessment. And then the fall diagnostic you'll see during that second line. So the kind of biggest thing to look at is the green. This is going to be students who are mid or above grade level. And so what we can see is in the fall we had 102 students that were mid or above grade level, and now district-wide we have 224. So really exciting that we're seeing that much growth. You can also see that the kind of green here without the stripes, this is going to be your early on grade level. This rose from 159 to 232. We can see that our approaching, so this is one grade level below, went from 519 to 471, right? So we can see that yellow getting a little smaller, meaning that our students are moving, if they're one grade level below, they're either moving to early on grade level or to mid or above grade level. And then you can see our 2 grade levels below, and then our 3 or more grade levels below, that red is actually shrinking, which is what we want to see. And so what you can see at the bottom here is that we wanted to break it down into some subgroups. iReady allows you to break down data in a lot of really just intentional and thoughtful ways. We didn't want to go too deeply into all the different categories tonight, but wanted to show you English learners and then students with IEPs. And so what you can see here, if we just look at the colors, is that you can see that our level of number of students that are early on grade level or mid or above grade level are growing, as are our 1 grade level below, and then our 2 or grade levels below and our 3 or more grade levels below are shrinking in both our students that are our multilingual learners as well as our students with IEPs. This is overall really good news.
I noticed on that slide that in the English learners, they have 0% for that first category, which I think is the green, but yet it shows green over there.
So 0%. So it might be hard to tell on here. So the far left green is the striped green. And so you can see, so the stripes, so the green
Yes.
is 7. Since there's no stripes, that's it. I wish they would do different colors. I feel like the stripes is a little hard to tell.
Yeah.
But basically what that means is that most recently, we didn't have any students that were multilingual learners that were mid or above grade level, but we did have 7% that were early on grade level. And then math, similarly, we saw a lot of growth, which is really exciting. This is an area that oftentimes when we think about where attention is focused in schools, as we know from even the early literacy grant, high dosage tutoring, a lot of attention is paid toward literacy, which is really important, and we know that mathematics is also important. And so we are seeing a lot of growth here in mathematics. So again, we're seeing our mid or above grade level and our early on grade level rising across the district. Again, this is K through 8. We're seeing our one grade level below, getting a little bit bigger, but we are seeing quite a drop in terms of our students that are 2 grade levels below or 3 or more grade levels below district-wide. Similarly, if you look down here at the multilingual learners and our students with IEPs, we are continuing to see our students growing their skills in math in order to be more proficient. And while we want to see more growth, the fact that we are seeing growth with our multilingual learners and our students on IEPs, that is excellent, specifically because a lot of times when we're assessing math, we're also assessing literacy. And so sometimes it's hard to be able to parse out, is it actually math skills or is it students' literacy development? And so the more that we're able to support our students' foundational literacy skills, the more that we are going to see the impact in our mathematics outcomes. So what we're going to do is, that's kind of just a district-wide snapshot, very high level, but we broke this down into each of our schools, K-8, and so our schools are going to get a chance to share their data, the work that they're doing in these areas in both reading and math, as well as the progress towards their goals that we went over months ago. Because we don't have these particular assessments at the high school level, both Phil and Donna are going to share some different data. So they're going to share grades, and then Donna is going to share iReady for her K-8 students at IBA. So I'm going to turn it over to AJ to talk about channeling.
Thank you, and I'm going to sneak out after our presentation. We have a dual language family night tonight that was scheduled against an important holiday last week, so we rescheduled it tonight. So apologies for having to sneak out, but thank you for letting me kind of share about the updates at Chenoweth. So, I mean, I think our data for iReady matches the district data pretty similarly, where there's lots of growth. Like, I feel like as a whole, students like come into Chenoweth starting from a lower spot sometimes, and then growth takes a little bit longer. Like when I was just looking at like some comparative data, we're about the same size as Dry Hollow. And at Winter, we have about the same students in 2 grade levels below as they started the year with. So we're catching up. It just takes a little bit longer. And so we're seeing similar growth as the district in both reading and math. Lots more students that are more recently in our winter diagnostic that have gone into mid or above grade level. And on the next slide, I believe, is the dual language information. And this, like, we've done a lot of new learning recently about like dual language, and like the science is continuing to change. And just in more meetings I've been in, like I was in an IEP meeting recently, and a native Spanish-speaking student in a dual language program was at or near grade level in English reading proficiency, but still quite a bit below in Spanish proficiency in literacy, but is very fluent in like language production and receptive language. So we're still like, that's still all like growing, and it takes time. In our dual language presentation, like we have some information that like really by 6th and 7th grade is where we start to see students like really outperforming, and a lot of students are becoming masters at both at the same time, so they're learning twice as much as just their monolingual peers. So similar growth in our dual language program. We presented last June that program is continuing to grow. And currently we have 2 strands, so 2 kindergarten classes in dual language and 1 in Spanish dual language, and then 1 that is a monolingual English course, and that is continuing to grow up. So next year we'll have 2 first grade, 2 kindergarten, and 1 6th grade dual language class at Chenoweth, and then 1 at every other grade level, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Go to the next slide, Robbie. Math is still, like, I feel like my entire time at elementary level, reading and the science of reading and all of the, like, it's been very literacy focused. So our math scores consistently lag behind our reading scores. Again, there's growth. With the adoption of iReady, I think we're seeing more growth than we did previously in math, and we have as part of iReady, there's a tool called MyPath, where it's like individualized student work. So it's like working right at or above their level based on how they do on the diagnostics. So they have time to constantly be working in intervention through iReady Math, and that was not something that was happening previously to the adoption of iReady. So I think that's really helpful for students' math performance. So similar in DLI, like it's growing, and students at Chenoweth are learning math and Spanish. The 3 goals that I set at the beginning of the year and presented to you all previously were around student experience. So looking at our youth truth data, so we're just increasing positive responses to belonging and culture, and then really looking to prioritize feedback from students of historically marginalized groups, as well as increasing our regular attenders to 70% and increasing our 3rd grade ELA proficiency. And 3rd grade, again, is the first time students take the OSAS test, and it's the first time our dual language students will be taking the OSAS test in English, and all of 80 to 90% of their language arts learning has been in Spanish. So this is a challenge for some of those students, and that's why that trajectory takes a little bit longer for those students to start outperforming their monolingual peers. And for me, you can go to the next slide. I really think attendance and academic performance are all tied to student experience. Like if students want to be there, they're enjoying their school experience, then they're going to show up and they're going to perform better. And we've tried really hard to do some things at Chenoweth to really increase student attendance. So I included some pictures. On the bottom left there are some students in 5th and 4th grade in our Genius Hour working on repairing some bikes that they use in PE. And they're learning how to like change tubes and grease gears. On the bottom right, the students just like playing on the playground with some like building some things with some wood. They were building a house the other day. And then in the upper right is, and I have some handouts, is a picture of our design lab and students in our design lab working on projects with their classroom teacher and really trying to bring in some project-based learning and deeper learning. And some of the other student experience things we're really working on, we went kind of all in on Responsive Classroom this year, which is a program that really is grounded our Tier 1 kind of student behavior experience, like just program, I guess. Like it's kind of guided our work around student discipline and thinking about teaching students discipline instead of being punitive, really focusing on kind of social emotional skills, how to reteach those, how to interactively model those things. And we start every day with a morning meeting, and I think that really sets the tone for the students for the entire day. And it really has felt like it's made a big impact, both in our discipline data and just overall student experience this year. And then I included this, so my data is going to come from our Youth Truth Survey. We're incentivizing families to take the Youth Truth by letting kids and staff throw water balloons at the office staff. We're hoping that kids pester their parents to take the survey so they can throw water balloons at us. And we're really hoping to hear from about half the families, or 175 families. So I think we'll have a pretty good turnout tonight at the dual language family night, and we're hoping that a lot of them will participate in the survey. We have 61 of 63 staff have submitted surveys, and about 87% of our students have already return surveys, and a couple classes haven't taken it yet because state testing is going on too, so probably be in the upper 90s for student response. So more to come on student experience. Attendance, I really think this is tied to student experience. Every Wednesday we have an assembly where students are performing. Our ASB is planning student assemblies. Like we had a staff versus student soccer game. There's going to be, I think this last Wednesday or maybe the upcoming Wednesday, students are planning it. There's going to be a staff versus student volleyball tournament. And they've been some of the best assemblies I've been a part of. Like all the kids are super into it. It's their voice, like their agency and choice of what's going on at the assemblies. And I think it really is encouraging kids to come to school. Every Friday, now that it's light again, students meet at 20's Market over on 7th Street, and we do a walking school bus. We stopped when the weather and light was not good, so if you're interested in joining the walking school bus, you're more than welcome to join us at 7:20 on Friday mornings. Every Friday. Working on building community partnerships and having things that kids can do at school that are things beyond the classroom. So we recently developed a partnership with the OHSU Master Gardeners. So they're going to be in every week starting in April for the next 3 to 8 years, working with classes in our garden space at Chenoweth. Connecting that to like deeper learning experiences, just really trying to get kids out in the community, get them on field trips. Our 4th grade dual language class is planning an overnight field trip that is tied to their geology curriculum. So just really trying to make the school experience something students feel they want to be a part of. And in the fall, when I set my goals, I was like, we are going to hit 70%. There's no way we're not going to hit 70%. Look at how close we are already. And this is the end of trimester 1 data. So this is from November. And we were right there. When I look at this data, like longitudinally, if like you're looking at an Oregon data suite, you can like track individual cohorts. So I can see the 4th grade cohort all the way back when they were in 1st grade. And that cohort for us has had the highest attendance the entire time they've been at school. And I would say our 4th grade students as a whole are the kindest, nicest collective group to one another. Again, I think just reinforcing that idea that like if school is something you want to be a part of, you'll show up. And then our trimester 2 data went way down. 4th grade is still kind of leading the charge there, and I think this tracks like for the district also. It's illness. There was lots of fear related to ICE activity in the community. We had some students, parents detained, and so I think that really impacted students showing up for school and feeling safe. There were several times this school year where we had lots of staff presence out at dismissal just because parents were afraid that their students may be detained or they may be detained picking them up. So that was that in the context of attendance. I think it's really important. I think it's something that we've seen across the state. So we're hopeful to get these numbers up. We post like weekly attendance outside at our reader board every week. I think some data is going to be shared later. Like 90% of the kids are in school every day, and it's really a large group of kids, or a small group of kids that are chronically absent. And we're doing some work at leadership level to figure out why those 20 kids, why their attendance is so bad. And it's pretty complex, the reasons. And then 3rd grade ELA scores, we're doing state testing right now. 5th grade and 4th grade and 3rd grade just finished one ELA score, or one ELA test. So they take 2 tests in ELA. They take a performance task test, and they take a CAT test, and then that's just happening right now. We'll be finished in April. We did state science testing before spring break. So we're looking at iReady growth to see kind of how does that track the state testing. And then this year, our culture and climate TOSA, who was a former teacher at Chenoweth, kind of led the charge with how can we kind of encourage and show support to students that are getting ready to take state testing. So every student in grade 3 through 5 got a handwritten note, either from a staff member or a parent, just kind of encouraging them to do their best on the state testing, knowing that it's it's a nerve-wracking time for kids. They feel like if they don't pass the state test, they're maybe not going to go to the next grade. So there's a picture of kind of our setup, and then some students opening their letters before state testing. So overall, I think we're really focusing on responsive classroom practices. There's some positive reading growth across all grade levels. We're trying to expand community partnerships, and we really want staff to continue to commit to supporting students academically and emotionally. Chronic absenteeism is a challenge. It really is impacting some students more than others. There's still students below grade level in reading, and that is a compounding issue. I think when they don't know what's going on in class, those often turn into discipline issues. And then we're really trying to work and narrow in on some work about staff consistency in behavior response and making sure people feel comfortable in a practice how they're responding every time. And we, as an elementary leadership team, we've been working really hard to kind of try and develop some training for our staff to do that, rolling out this spring and then next year, just to really try and have consistent adult responses. We were talking about having lots of empathy for behavior, as well as lots of structure, so people are feeling comfortable responding. This is our discipline data. I'm really proud of this. This is from last year, trimester 2, to this year, just in terms of what sort of incidents we're seeing, in terms of total documentation, admin response, and I really do think having a consistent response and have staff feeling more confident in being consistent in all areas of the school has helped bring just the overall buzz and temperature down in the building, so we can really focus on academics. One of the other things, I brought things to hand out to you. So we have a design lab at Chenoweth that we're really focusing on some project-based learning. So there's a little bit of a flyer about that, and then there's only 2 flyers with pictures of students doing projects. But it's really changed the atmosphere at Chenoweth, and when kids or a class isn't in a classroom, I'm like, hey, where are they? Kids are oh, they're in the makerspace, and that is not something that's new, and they're in a space learning and designing and working together in projects. So I brought you a little 3D printed cougar or puma, and then there's just a little flyer about what deeper learning looks like at Chenoweth, as well as some pictures of students on field trips and designing, and just kind of really trying to make school a place where kids want to be. So take a look at pictures and take a little puma. I don't know how many of them there are. There's enough for every board member. And I can get more for
I guess that's me, not for us.
school staff.
None for us.
You have more for school staff.
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, CJ's taking one step.
I'm taking one too.
Any questions?
Yeah, are there questions for
Principal rundown and Chenoweth?
I have a quick question. Where did you pull that data? Because I was looking for ours and I couldn't find it. Did you get it off Oregon Data Suite?
No, I made this.
Oh, well, no wonder I couldn't find it. Yeah,
I made this, and this is so we.
that's nice.
This is really important. This data is really important to me because when things are calm, we can focus on academics. And I think it also allows us as administrators to be like educational leaders. We're not responding or reacting to student discipline issues. We're able to be in classrooms working with teachers. And that has to, like, this has to happen before that other stuff can happen. And I really feel like we're in a place where we're focused on academics now.
Any questions for Principal Bill?
In May 27th, not May 20th. May 20th is the middle school carnival. May 27th is the Chenoweth, we're doing a spring STEM night. Our design lab is going to be open, so if you'd like to come like see what students are doing in the design lab, I encourage you to come to our family night. We're either going to have pozole or hot dogs. So we're having pozole tonight. It's springtime, it's a barbecue. But come by on May 27th, check out the design labs, see what kids are working on. We're getting a laser cutter, an engraver in there, and kids are working with, kids are working up at community college in their space up there, prototyping and seeing like real career trajectories. So
Cool. Maybe they can leapfrog some millennials and just go straight in the job market. Yes, lovely. I love some of the things I heard was that structure was a consistent structure was being put in place, which is really cool. That's a lot of hard work from administration to make those things happen and the teachers. But the benefits I'm sure are immense for the students, the consistency, so that they know what's going to happen. And I also appreciate, rather note that discipline is something you teach. It is not punishment. So I appreciate that very much. Because yes, you're guided. Discipline is guidance.
yeah,
Go
we want
here,
students,
not
we want
here.
students to behave when we're not there.
Yeah, so that was lovely. You mentioned that you had a lot of emphasis on literacy, trying to catch up. And so, yeah, but then you also mentioned math kind of lags, so I know you can't do all things at once. It's interesting though with children, sometimes their little brains are up for math and sometimes their little brains are up for literacy, and so it kind of makes swaps around.
And we're trying to, I think, look at like teaching math in a more relevant way, in a more like application-based way. And I think that like project-based learning is a good way to do that.
Oh yeah.
And
Context.
solving real problems, not like solving word problems about real things.
Right, yeah. Context.
Actually doing like that.
Yeah, and do they have guidance during those deeper? I'm sure they do. Teachers who can jump in and create a math lesson on the spot in a way. Yeah. So I just applaud everybody, but we're going to start with you. So very exciting. Sounds like you're working towards and achieving a very enriching environment. Yay!
Yeah, welcome Principal Rendell. You have to run, so.
Oh yes, go for Soli.
Other questions? Happy to ask.
No, I'd just like to highlight for the board that while Phil is our most experienced active building administrator, AJ is our senior most serving building administrator in the North Wasco County School District.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's been working hard, leading the way for 6
Six.
years
Yeah, 6.
already.
6 years.
Thanks,
Yeah.
AJ.
Okay. So that's not 6 years
From
isn't
high
very
school. We
long.
clocked him in
That's
the
a long
elementary.
time in that seat.
Yeah.
As a high school
I used to
teacher.
teach high school science with Phil.
Oh,
We dumped him into elementary school.
Oh, really?
Science department all became administrators. We all kind of moved on.
oh, that's it. That is an interesting history to Big Trouble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Worked with Robbie on some really cool Barbie bungee jump videos.
Ken jumped too, it wasn't just Bob.
That's true.
Enjoy your family night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Principal Rendell. Okay. Next is Principal Mierda.
Thank you. I was going through data recently and bemoaning the state of things, and I submitted some of it to Dr. Ivy on a form, and she wrote back, she's like, oh my gosh, this is so great, look at all this growth, and I responded, are we looking at the same data? So, as someone who tends to focus on how much further we have to go. I appreciate the members on the team who highlight how far we've come already. It's something that I have to acknowledge often with my staff because I'm not inclined to big celebrations and like, look what we did. I'm like, okay, where are we going next? But in our reading scores between fall and the mid-year, we had 8% of our student body move out of the 2 or more below, up into 1 or more below or higher. And we had 9% growth in our earlier on grade level within reading, both of which are things that, again, through the help of my colleagues, I can acknowledge and celebrate as pretty remarkable growth. It was surprising to me to see, given that during the testing period, we had so many teachers and students out sick that it almost felt like a joke to be conducting the assessments anyway. But we're like, nope, we're gonna get it done. We'll have a mid-year snapshot. And it makes me, again, skeptically hopeful for what we'll have at the end of the year, given that we don't seem to be experiencing the same level of chronic illness. For math, we also saw a lot of growth. We saw a 9-point decrease from those who were 2 or more years below their grade level, moving up into a year below or higher. And we had double our growth of students who are early and on grade level. So those are all points to highlight within the assessment scores and data for reading and then for math. These are the goals that we shared earlier in the year. When Dr. Bernal shared hers and said, hey guys, you're going to set some goals, I was like, well, my goals are going to look super similar and familiar. So a little bit of search and replace of some keywords so that we're targeting the same things together at the same time. So those are the goals there on that slide. If you would go to the next slide. So these are the updates on our student experience goal. We've had ongoing year-long analysis of our previous student perception data with our whole staff. This has allowed us to have a lot of conversations around what are our efforts with our students and in our classrooms. I talk a lot about with my staff, what do we have control over? Because if we sit and we list what barriers students are facing, that is a never-ending list. But there's a certain subsection of that we have control over. We're awaiting the perception survey result from students. We had 97% participate, so we're really excited about that because we know that for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, whether they're happy or not, we'll know pretty accurately to the whole how they're feeling. And for the first time, we'll be able to compare it to overall data from last year. We've got current professional development and more collaboration within our building, looking at these things. AJ spoke a lot to it. We're also in the process of looking at how do we get teachers and staff as a whole being consistent in their disciplinary practices. Most of that really comes down to the small day-to-day interactions and redirections, but that's ongoing work. We have been working all year targeting our classified staff, our ESPs, and our climate and culture TOSA has led that work because they see the largest number of kids every day in the most unstructured and variable settings. And so having them work routinely on a community of practice of like, okay, what are we doing? What do we need to agree to do? How do we adapt it? All of our staff are educators. And I have to remind them of that all the time. You chose to work in a school, you're an educator. Gotcha. And they don't always feel like they have the amount of control and influence because they're not a licensed member. And so we work a lot on building up their sense of intentionality and responsibility and that sense of worth and purpose. We're also launching a responsive classroom design team modeled after the work going on at Chenoweth. And then through at the administrative level, we are engaged in a PDSA cycle, also targeting these same goals and finding ways to increase increase teacher capacity so that they can be responsive to student need and engagement opportunities. The data that feeds this goal will be available to us at the end of the month, so I don't have a specific numerical update.
And that's what PDSA stands for.
That plan, do, study, and act.
Thank you.
It's a cycle where you pick what's hopefully a short-term strategy to address a need, implement, and then follow up.
So every principal, assistant principal team is in a PDSA cycle right now, studying something specific to their site. And then the cabinet team is also doing a PDSA cycle in pairs. So CJ's doing one with Amy. I'm doing one with Dr. Ivy. Sevio's doing one with Stephanie. And then Dan and Sandy actually are each doing individual ones because their lanes of HR and business money is very specific.
Yeah.
So they're each doing their own, but we are supporting each other. So
Continuous improvement.
Yeah, it's
Plans-
a part of the group design.
It's plan, do, study, act.
Yeah.
And repeat.
Right, yeah, constantly, yes. That's great. Great.
You'll note that our attendance goal was not tied to a percentage increase. We tied it to building a functional system to approach and try to work on monitoring and addressing attendance issues. I think we've met that goal, I believe, and we're continuing to refine it as a building team. So we have a school-based attendance team that meets monthly and goes over the attendance data. We're constantly analyzing root causes, monitoring the progress of students. We have gradually shifted this role onto the attendance secretary, and I'm very grateful because she's so excited to have an aspect of her role that matches the title.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of starting to take the leadership on this process. And then we are regularly receiving that data, those reports, and those evidence-based interventions are being put in place. It's really hard to address attendance. I mean, when you look at all of the research and all the trainings and everything out there, how do I make my attendance better? It's just make kids want to be at school. So it's kind of hard to write a goal about that tied to, for me, an attendance increase by percentage number. So we're really focusing on what are our internal actions, allowing us to do things more intentionally, because we just didn't have that before. And then finally, our academic goals. I tried to break this down a little more clearly. I worked with our teachers to try to have more similar goal language this year so that when we're in our professional learning communities that we're talking about the same things. We got closer than we've been. Some still went off and did something different, but I tied my goal in directly to our first grade team because again, the research shows that first grade reading performance is a substantial indicator of later reading ability. I mean, there are kids who don't start reading until they're in third grade and they take off, and that's just a fact. But first grade is really what gives us the solid read according to the science that we have right now. And so this slide just kind of goes over how our students are performing in high frequency words. Those are kind of those sight words, we might call them. These are words that they see a lot when they're reading. They help build fluency and speed and confidence in students. We don't want to teach students to read strictly through high frequency words, but it's a good measure of their confidence in their reading. And so this data reflects our first grade students, of which at the time of gathering the data there were 45. And again, this was the data I sent Dr. Ivy, and she was excited about, and I was skeptical about, and had to reframe what I highlighted.
I even colored it. I was like, well, look at all the green.
Yeah, I still disagreed, but 9 of our students in first grade have already maxed out the score for high frequency words, which suggests that, and some of those later on dropped. So if you look at the orange, we had 10 students who scored lower mid-year compared to the fall. That happens. Some of those were those who are already maxed out. So I think that speaks somewhat to illness cycles and things like that. One student wasn't available, but then you can see that we had 4 students who moved on high frequency words from a grade below to mid or above. We had 8 students who moved from 2 grades below to just 1 grade below. And then there were 14 other students who made overall growth but didn't move in terms of categorization. So that's how we're doing in terms of reaching that goal that I've set for our academic goals. We are investing all of our bonus resources right now in first grade. So the the hey, do you want this money for tutoring that we received, that we were like, yes, please, we are prioritizing first grade students. So we've got the organization, the organization that we've partnered with is running those tutoring sessions with first graders already. We're a couple weeks into that. They're getting that high dosage tutoring and pull out. And we are getting set to get our after school tutoring with our site staff, our teachers, in place. So all of those resources are going into first grade. And then where there is extraneous, we're looking at second grade and other students. And we're just continuing to monitor. My goals align with our first grade teachers, so we're looking at the same stuff when we're planning. And then this year we have an additional, we have an ESP staff member dedicated to first grade, which isn't typically the case. So there's just an extra support there for teachers and groups and things like that. We moved one out of kindergarten and to focus on first grade this year.
So first grade.
Tell me we're done.
That's it.
So first grade, and you mentioned earlier, like first grade was a thing. First grade was kind of like known to be a way to predict, right? Is that why? Okay. So, and so, yeah, that start. Somebody also, I don't know if it was you, or, yeah, in the Chenoweth, challenges students continue to enter school below grade level in reading. And this is probably not the time, but sometime when the district is ready, it would be fun to have some kind of an initiative with our social partners in the community, such there's an education program for parents with the preschools, and you know. We're already doing that? Yes. Okay.
So there's actually some work happening out of Four Rivers. It's called P3, and it's really trying to think about how we can support preschool and the connection between preschool and our K-12 programs. And so we actually just applied for a grant. I don't know what's going to be winning that grant. We're hoping we get it. If not, this is work that we're committed to doing without the funds. And we already have some partnerships in mind. So really thinking about, I mean, AJ had mentioned a lot of the students at Chenoweth, takes longer for them to make up that time because they're coming in 2 to 3 grade levels below. And so research really does show the impact of preschool and having that academic enrichment opportunity within preschool. And so that is something that we're working on. We also applied for a summer learning grant, which we are hoping that we receive. And that will also include Jumpstart Kindergarten, which is an opportunity to do some like school readiness, some literacy development. It's a short amount of time, so it's not enough. We definitely need more than that, but these are conversations that we're already having.
And I would say partnering with anybody who, I heard a story yesterday, sorry, it's dragging, about an early learning initiative that targeted with primary care. And because the primary care provider is trusted by regardless. And so that they also were an input for explaining how you are your child's first teacher, there's things you can do, by the way, and so encouraging parents to step up a little bit in that way, because you know it starts from 0. Yay. Said my piece. Boo, thank you. Even though you didn't think so, you're moving them out, you're moving them into the green and the yellows, so that's fantastic. Creating more structure, continuous improvement. I love that you're empowering your ESPs. Yes, you came in, you're an educator. That's really cool that you think of them that way and let them know that too, because they are. It's great. You have 90%, 97%, essentially 100% of your students have completed the youth troops. So that's going to be some rich data when you get it. And others can help you celebrate it. And
It takes a village.
yeah, so that'll be excellent data for everybody on the team. So very cool, and thank you. Thank you for your work there. Yeah.
So unfortunately, Principal Lloyd fell ill and can't be with us tonight, but you all can look at her slides, but her data trends much like everybody else's, where we're seeing significant growth happening. We're moving more kids into the green, and our red is becoming smaller for both reading and math. And Principal Lloyd also had 3 goals, one around student experience, one around attendance, and she had an academic goal. On her student experience goal, they've been doing something this year called Curiosity Quest, which is, again, project-based deeper learning. It's that more hands-on learning, and they're seeing a lot of success. They've completed 1 round, and many of the teachers are now moving into a 2nd and 3rd round of Curiosity Quest on their own. It's taken a really strong commitment of their staff as a whole, but she's got the buy-in, and they're moving forward with that, and the kids are really flourishing. In attendance, they saw a significant reduction in their chronic absenteeism from 37% to 28%, and now it's 8%. So they're making some really targeted interventions for some of our kids who are chronically absent, and really working with those families to understand the barriers and get them back into school. And then on her academics, she specifically chose, I believe, 3rd grade math. And she was talking about how in the fall, only 1% of their students were performing at grade level in math, and that's increased to 15%. And even more significantly, the percentage of kids performing 2 or more grade levels below has decreased from 51 to 35, which is a 16% reduction. So she's excited for what spring will bring, and when we look at our spring data to see even more growth. So. But as you read that, if you have questions for Principal Lloyd, please don't hesitate to reach out. She was really sorry she couldn't be here. So I will turn it over to Principal Tilton. We're going to talk about the middle school.
I do just feel inclined, I know I'm singing to the choir, but to say this, because we can only control what we can control. The Youth Truth Survey, 2 things that have come up just already, the Youth Truth Survey and then Are I Ready? It's only as good as the kids are willing to engage in it and take it seriously. The most exciting thing at the middle school, I think, about I Ready is growth is awesome, like that's wonderful, but this is so sad. So I'm a little bit like Luke, it's like absolutely let's celebrate progress, but it's so pitiful. And when I see the instruction that's happening in our building, it just hurts your heart, because we have so many amazing teachers doing engaging, awesome, wonderful, grade level lessons that half your class is not paying attention. Like they're choosing not to engage.
They cannot.
And I don't want to I'm just making excuses. I don't know. I just really feel like I want to let the board know that our teachers are doing an amazing job. And when we're starting with in the fall, over half of our kids were in red. Where do you start? It used to be you could kind of teach to the middle and be safe, and now our middle is 2 grade levels below. So please have grace, and please trust and know that we have amazing, amazing teachers doing really, really good work. Can we all always do better? Of course, but I don't know. I just feel like I want to say that.
And I will say this, I don't think any of us administrators sitting around the table are satisfied with our data. We're not, none of us are. We want to do better, but we are seeing it trending in the right direction, and that's key, because that means what we're doing in the classroom is working, because we're seeing the numbers trend in the right direction.
And what
are they
I'm
trending at the pace we want them to? Not yet.
Right, exactly. And what I'm excited about, though, about I Ready is watching how much growth, it goes hand in hand, but that the kids are paying so much better attention to, because we're using the language in class. Every Monday when we do our binder checks, that's part of the discussion. Every Tuesday, every Wednesday in homeroom, we're doing I Ready Math. It's clicking in their heads that, this isn't just something that's going to go away. I have to talk about it. And I have to talk about how I'm performing. And so I do think as we get more into using it a few years down the road, even the seriousness that I think the kids are going to place on it, and when they can make that connection between my iReady lessons and I'm improving in the areas that I have gaps, it's gonna just, then we're gonna start seeing the fruits of all of our labors, which is super exciting. So I'm really glad that we have it. I think it's an incredibly useful tool. I know it's not cheap, but I think it gives us really, really good information, and I think the kids are starting to make that connection to the importance of iReady. Moving forward, thank you for letting me say that, I feel better. The goals that I have, the data, I mean, you can look at it, I don't need to read it to you, and I know we can get this moving. But my student experience goal, and I totally agree with AJ that it's, you know, I can push back on either side of it. On one hand, I will completely advocate for what we're doing and stick up for what we're doing and promise you that we're doing a really good job. On the other hand, I can say, well, make school somewhere where our kids want to be. And that challenge is a lot, but I think that that if our kids do feel like they belong, they do feel like it's worth my time to go, it's important, they will. And so all of these goals absolutely tie completely together. But for the student experience, one thing that we remain committed to is engaging our students in our SEL lessons. We have used Character Strong in the homeroom structure, and that's been a really effective curriculum to use. It's engaging, it's fun, there's games, and it's something that the teachers don't have to prep for, and they have bought into it, because at first I think a couple of them were pretty nervous, like, oh gosh, I don't have time to prep for another class. But that curriculum has been very user-friendly, easy to use, and the sixth graders, there's definitely a huge difference between the sixth grade and the seventh grade, because the sixth graders love to share their feelings, and they'll talk, and then seventh and eighth graders don't want to talk about it as much. But that's been very helpful for how we're using it in the homeroom. And in our homeroom, again, we have taken with very, very meaningful and purposeful intention. On Mondays, every single homeroom, every single student does their binder check. So we talk about what are you missing, what are your grades, what is your attendance, and they have a brief one-on-one with the teacher and are held accountable to that conversation, and they know that it's going to happen every Monday. But also watching the kids grow in just their maturity of being able to handle that conversation, and it's like, oh my gosh, your binder's a mess. Let's fix it, and I'm going to check in with you when I'm done. And but I think it's super beneficial. And then also, if you're missing anything, then they write a goal. They have a form that they fill out. I know I'm missing that assignment in math. I'm going to write it down, and then they have to fill in when they're committing to having it done. And that's been helpful. I mean, it's 100%, but super helpful. And then Tuesday we do iReady Reading, Wednesday iReady Math, Thursdays is when we do our SEL, and then Friday they have Friday to turn in or finish their makeup work or finish up and get academic support for any assignments that they missed. The ideal would be that week. Sometimes we're, well, 3 weeks ago, but the teachers are still taking it. But ideally, if they're doing what they are supposed to be doing and they just were sick or they were gone for an appointment, let's fix it right now and get this done. But our cultural experience has been an experience. Trying to coordinate with art people is hard to get a commitment out of them. And then also how much people want to charge. So we are really hoping to have one more cultural experience. We had our first one, which was awesome. But we also had the opportunity to partner. The high school invited us to partner with them for an assembly that we used some of that pot of money for our cultural experience to bring in Jamar Rood, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was awesome and totally worth the money. So thank you for inviting us to share it, help them out a little bit with the price, but we got a really nice assembly. So kind of merged our monies a little bit there, and so that was really nice. We do have our annual carnival, which is centered around a lot of cultural dancing and foods and showcases. We have also partnered with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Andrea Flores. She was new to me, but I'm also new to the community. So reintroducing the Juntos program at our school, and what they're going to do is they are going to have workshops where the parents and the kids come together and spend time planning and talking about next steps after high school graduation. And what's awesome about it is it's like the expectation of high school graduation is already established, and then what? And I love that. Instead of, I mean, of course, obviously we want our graduation rate to be 100%, but for that to become just the norm. Like, of course you're going to graduate from high school now. What are you going to do after high school? So that's just an addition. And then the Migrant Education Program launched it's kind of like our after-school study hall, but they're bringing in, it's awesome, like guest speakers and activities and whatnot. And so that's been really, really nice, because there are often times when our after-school homework club is full, and there have been on some occasions where they've actually had to turn kids away who wanted to stay, which of course then works really against you, because then they go home and say, well, they wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
I tried to do my homework, Mom, and they wouldn't let me. It's not that it's really untruth, but you know, they'll spin it. And then I do want to talk just a little bit about discipline, and I was excited because I thought maybe AJ found that on Oregon Data Suite, but to show you the data on it. But the middle school had, when Shudi and I got here, the start of a really good discipline matrix, and we've tweaked it a little bit, but I think just having that structure, we could talk all day philosophically about how we all feel, what does the word accountable mean, what does discipline mean, but anyway, I know that our data has gone down as far as the number of major referrals, as far as like major meaning like physical fighting, bullying, more like the physical stuff has really gone down. And so I'm a very huge believer. Middle schoolers, you just really have to keep your thumb on them, because if you give them an inch, they will go 5 miles. So we had the Jamar Root assembly. The kids loved it. He was so worth every penny. He engages and just talks about resiliency and having goals and believing in yourself message, but it was awesome. We spent time, and if you want a copy of it, I can email you, doing what we call an onboarding protocol, which is how are we handling students that come in new. And what I felt like, and this is partly coming from a really small 1A school district, where it's like, why am I being left out of the loop when we get a new kid? Because what I'm used to is I'm the one that greets them. I'm the one that gives them the tour. It's just so different in a 1A school. Like, new kid, it's like,
Big deal.
it's in the chieftain, literally. It's like literally in the Loudoun County chieftain usually. Like, welcome. Anyway, and they were like, oh, that's so weird that you think it's weird that you need to be involved, kind of. Like, well, of course I want to be involved. But anyway, that's what sparked the conversation, and we have this. It's almost overkill, but what we really wanted to do on the protocol is to make sure that we don't have gaps that cause stress the first day that our new kids come. Because it's already hard enough to be in middle school and stressful enough to start at a new school or return for whatever the reasons are that you're returning. So things like, for example, if we don't make sure that we have done the 4 steps that it takes for a kid to use their Chromebook prior to them getting there, so then they go to class and everybody's on their Chromebook, and the first thing, they just say, oh, get on your Google Classroom. They're already behind. I mean, if I'm that kid, because I would be the one that'd be like, well, I'd love to, but can't, you know, I don't know. Just, we were setting them up to not be as successful as we could be with several things. And then I committed to, I want a face-to-face, I want to welcome them to the school, I want to shake their hand and be part of them coming. So I think those are the types of things that we can fine-tune that do make a difference in kids' experience of coming, especially to middle school, that I'm super proud of, and I think that will make their transition easier. And then this year, we're super excited. I know they've been talking about it, and it's like, no, we're just gonna take the lead and make it happen. On our PLC day, Wednesday next week, we broke our staff into 3 groups, and one group has an administrator, or each group has an administrator, a counselor, and then 6th grade teachers make up the groups, and one will have one elementary school, and we're going to sit down and staff every single one of our incoming 6th graders so that we can be better prepared for them and set them up for success on their first days and weeks here at the middle school. And we're super excited about that. And then as a staff, then we'll reconvene and bring all of the information together. And the 6th grade teachers are super appreciative to be able to be involved in that, because in the past, just time, and it's not the most efficient, but the counselors will get information, but it always doesn't get translated to the teachers, and they're the ones that can help the kids. So super excited about that, and I'm sure we'll have really good things to report on that in the future. The 8th grade students recently participated in the career day at Columbia Gorge Community College, and it was really nice this year because that event tied in perfectly with their fly-up day at the high school. And the fly-up day, one of the kind of the bigger themes this year about that was the CTE programs, which are amazing. So lucky to have those. And how do those connect with future careers, and how does that connect to the 8th graders who will be coming high school, and what classes you choose for your elective, and why are you choosing that elective for? So for it to be meaningful and purposeful. So that was wonderful. And then upcoming things, 6th graders have their outdoor school, which is awesome. The 7th grade will do their annual mural trip downtown, and then 8th grade we have promotion, and we're still continuing. We're not where we want to be at what the expectation and what does promotion mean. So we are still working on raising those expectations and taking the good and the bumps that are coming with that along the way. For our attendance, we have the luxury of having a really amazing youth outreach worker at the middle school, and we all had met and agreed that one of the things that we can utilize our YOWs for is to help us with attendance. That is there any way that you can help? And it has been so awesome. Our youth outreach worker, like, she's just been in this system. She gets it. She understands social work. She understands schools. She's just a gem. And she has been able to, there's 3 families that she has been able to connect with that won't return our calls, but they return hers, and their kids are back in school. Like, that's the most important thing. And she just is that, you know, like, and sometimes it's really nice. It's kind of like the school nurse, where it's like, I don't work for the school. Like, I'm not associated, but for some families, that's what they need to hear. They're just, whatever their experience has been, that they don't feel good about school. But that's 3 families that we still have their kids. So super excited about that. We have our IPT team working on that. We have our building attendance team that we have been meeting with and working on, trying to focus on, get away from focusing on what we can't control. Because it's just like this quicksand that just pulls you under into a negative space. But what can we control, and what can we do, like celebrating the fact that we have those 3 families. 3 is $15,000 or whatever it is per kid. Not that money's the most important thing, but it makes the world go round. But most importantly, that we have our eyes on those kids and have them in our building. iReady data, using that, that was the last one about attendance. And then for academic, using our iReady data and remembering to celebrate the progress and the growth. And our master schedule, oh gosh, I could talk all day. If any of you are interested, come see me at school. And Luke, do you want to make an appointment? But we're doing some very, very exciting things with our master schedule. And one thing I want to say is, as a new administrator here, I set up a committee, and it's always scary setting up a committee over something like, oh, I don't know, the master schedule, no big deal. And it's the first time that I have felt like it's the first thing that I truly feel like I've been allowed to lead, and for people to actually be on the same team and follow. And the attitude and the willingness of the entire team to think of things outside the box and think about doing things differently. And what does our focus really need to be? Because we are so ready at the middle school to focus on instructional excellence. Like, our behaviors and our climate and our culture is very calm, considering it's a middle school. I mean, transition, don't judge us on transitions, but, and we're ready to move to the next level as new admin to the building. But our master schedule, the most exciting thing about it, and then I'll quit talking about it because I could talk all night, is that we are putting in a 30-minute time for school-wide for reading intervention next year, and it's going to be amazing. And if our scores don't, I just will be shocked. I'm going to cry. If I have to report, we really aren't showing any more progress than we already were, I literally will cry. But not looking for that to happen. Okay, and then we also, exciting, we finally have like a legit site council. We just replaced the last person who really wanted to do it, but her life is just crazy and she can't do it. And we're merging with the Middle School Matters campaign. So Celia and Val Rector have been at our last two site council meetings, and we will hopefully be able to take advantage of Middle School Matters opportunities before it ends. There's one more year of the grant, so that's super exciting. And then 8th grade promotion is coming, and obviously you're all very invited. It is the 11th of June, and the May 20th is our carnival, which please come because it's a hoot. That's it.
That's a lot. That's not
I know, and I just could say
That's
so
a
many
lot.
words. I know.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And yeah, I mean, we all know what middle school's like, right? So
It's the best.
Amazing.
I love middle school. They're just, you just gotta love them.
So some things I recognize is early on, as you talk about the iReady, and that the students are kind of, it's only your second year. So now, these kids are middle school, they're a little bit savvy. So they're going to test and see if this goes away. This is stupid. But I can tell you that any first, second, third, fourth, or fifth grader who gets to middle school is going to go, oh, this is just life. This is normal.
Yep.
So I can see that this might be a thing right now, but it won't be. So that's cool. It will just be part of what school is. I love that the SEL time is no prep for the teachers. And,
Oh, they all have a prep.
no, they don't have to prep.
Oh,
They don't have to
Yeah.
make time to enable them to do that.
Yeah.
And then two things, the onboarding protocol and then the transition meetings, both are very thoughtful. In business, the parallel is that if you don't do a good job onboarding a new employee, the likelihood of retaining them goes way down.
Yep.
And so for you, those kids have to be in school, but their engagement may go down and they'll just quiet quit school.
Yep.
So you have identified a very key moment in our human experience, i.e. entering a new environment. Do we feel welcome? Do we have the tools we need to match everybody else? Are we up to speed? All that stuff. So that well done on that. I love that the 6th grade teachers are actively engaged in seeing what's coming, because I expect that sometimes they get an IEP in there and they go, this is a challenge, And they get to spend all summer thinking about how they might get to address that and be ready. So that's pretty cool. I love that the workers trusted, and you are not. But that's okay. Because
Well, it's
you
okay.
said it.
Yeah,
Some people
like-
have bad experiences with school, and you cannot undo that.
Yep.
By yourself. Your team cannot undo that.
There's just families that immediately think that if they see this school calling, that they're in trouble, or
Yeah.
it's negative, or, it's not like
Absolutely.
personal of whoever happens to be
Yeah.
calling. They just immediately think, oh, I'm not
Yeah.
answering the call, because there's
Of
no
course.
good reason anybody from school is calling me.
Yeah, just their whole perception of the school system. So, so even though you're sad that they're not achieving like you want, you've set up a foundation that is structured with the discipline, structured with the evaluation, structured with the mastered schedule, and attendance is got eyes on and engagement. And so I think you are set up for success. Yeah. Good job.
This is the cohort too that was in like kindergarten, first grade, second grade.
Oh, boy.
Those key during COVID, yeah. They're coming your way.
Yep.
Just pass them to Phil.
I have plans.
But he has a plan, yes,
Yeah.
which perfect signal, yeah.
Yes, he does.
But that's very true, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say, I mean, one thing, I know we talked about this a couple months ago, when we think about assessments, like, we want to make sure that we're using multiple measures to understand students' progress, because there are students who, like, there's a lot of test anxiety, and sitting down to a test is really challenging for students. We have students who, they might be able to be very effective readers if they're reading something on paper, but reading on a computer is very challenging for them. iReady is a computer-based assessment. And so if we have students who struggle with computational skills and have low levels of computer literacy, that is going to impact the way that they are assessed. And so, I think when we look at any of these assessments, this is why we want to have really like a full profile of our students to say, okay, how are they doing on the OSAS? How are they doing on the iReady? We have local performance assessments that assess in speaking, writing, reading, and scientific inquiry. How are they doing on those? Phil's going to talk a little bit, I think, maybe not tonight, but they're doing some work at the high school around final assessment. So really thinking about like, end of grade assessments. At the elementary level, we have foundations assessments that are assessing, like Luke was talking about, like high frequency words. And so, when we think about assessments, I just want us to like contextualize this a little bit, that this is one part of a larger picture of a student's progress. And this is why we have things like our intervention progress teams, because the goal is that if we're seeing a student not making progress, we're not only going to look at iReady, we're not only going to look at OSAS, we're going to look at that in comparison to, okay, wait, they're doing really good in class, but let's kind of figure that out, right? And so I want to kind of push that a little bit, not to say, of course, we don't want more growth, but it's important that we're looking at iReady in terms of the larger picture of what our students are achieving day in and day out. Exactly.
Thank you.
All right. It's my turn. Okay, I'm gonna have to stand up because I'm used to being a teacher, and teachers don't teach sitting down. So, all right. So I'm gonna start this off with an analogy because I love analogies. As a science teacher, I was always using analogies to teach things. And I've been teaching and being an administrator and working in schools for 32 years this year. And sometimes when I think of that number, it just boggles my mind. I remember being a brand new teacher and knowing that I needed about 36 years till I could retire. And I thought, I'll be dead by then. It will never happen. I'll never get that far. No way. And so every morning when I get up, now that I'm the principal of the high school, I've been there for the last 11 years, 3 years as a teacher, 7 or 8 years as the assistant principal, and now as the principal. I feel like I'm going out and getting on a train every morning. There's a train right outside my house, and for the first time, that train is all going in the same direction. Dr. Bernal has really done a good job of bringing us all together as a team and giving us focus. And these 3 goal sections is what's done that this year, especially. I want to thank the elementary principals. It's hard work. I know I did that for a little while. And I want to thank the alternative school principal because she's working with a lot of my toughest kids, and the middle school principal because I did 3 years middle school teaching too, and that was just Crazyville. But, you know, we're all having these similar goals, right? We're all working on the same 3 very important things for our school district. And I watched, you know, the high school, and I was the second in command, but I wasn't the pilot, and I couldn't steer the ship. I just had to go along. But now our train is all going in the same direction, and I am feeling very good about it. I'm excited after 32 years to get up and go to work in the morning. It really is a challenge and a wonderful thing, and I have some great stuff to share with you tonight. So I have the same 3 goals, a sense of culture, belonging, and connection, reducing absenteeism, or improving our absenteeism rate, and student proficiency. So I'm going to take you through those. The high school assessment, I'm going to add on to what Dr. Alley just said. It's difficult in the high school, especially in the state of Oregon, because they do not assess our high school students with the state assessment until the end of their junior year. By that time, there's not a lot of time to fix things. You can't go back and improve their reading scores, their math scores. It is what it is. It's more of an exit exam. But it's also not very accurate. Every school district I've ever worked in, every year we get the results from the previous year, and many of the kids have already moved on, and reading looks terrible, and math looks terrible, and they all look terrible because the things that are on those tests are not very relevant to kids. They're stressful to the kids, like we said. You know, the high school kids, every year when we do spring testing, the first question they ask me is, what is this for? Why do we need to do this to graduate? Because I got a lot of things I got to concentrate on besides this. You know, you got kids taking AP tests and all sorts of other things where they actually get something out of it. They don't see any relevance in the state testing. And so one of the things that we really are working on and developing and trying to add is something that we can use on a year-to-year basis in the high school to measure our progress. And that's something that doesn't exist very much. So we have to do it ourselves in our departments, and that we have to look at, you know, how are these kids doing, so we can compare apples to apples and really take a look at whether we're making some success. So that's in the works, and it'll take a while to get that going. But I want to go over some of the other things. Can I go to the next?
So iReady is only K-3?
Yeah, it's only K-8. And so we do get an idea of where they're coming, where they're at when they come into us. And unfortunately, the world is designed around an educational system which by the time you get to middle school, you're supposed to know how to read, know how to do math and all that kind of stuff. So that as a standalone subject no longer exists, right? So then you're learning it from your subject matter, and it gets harder and harder. It also becomes a part of their overall behavior and the way that they see school and whether they enjoy school or don't enjoy school. Because if you can't read, that's a huge challenge, right? And so we're doing some good things. Let's start with the student experience at the high school. We have this, if you were there last year and you're there this year, you would see a totally different place. The vibe is different, the students are happy, they are involved in making decisions and helping to run the school. We have a new ASB advisor, Melissa Galland, that I credit for a lot of that. She came in there with her hair on fire, and she hasn't stopped. Last summer, I was out on a cruise, and she was emailing me about things she wanted to do. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this lady's going to kill me. She's going to wear me out. But she has been amazing with those kids, and she holds them accountable, and she makes sure that they are listened to and that they feel like they have a say, and it's their school. We see improvements in, I've been tracking all the clubs and the classes and all that kind of stuff. You know, our robotics team is the only school in the state of Oregon that's sending 2 robotics teams to the World Championship in about a week. And the other 7 teams from Oregon are all just from individual schools. They have, by the way, earned all the money they need to go, and they've paid their airfare and their hotel and everything, so they're very excited about it. And we're holding them accountable. I had to call one of them in today and say, you're failing a class. And he goes, I know, I can't go to Worlds. And I said, no, but you need to get your grades up. He said he would, so he was going to TAT tonight. We have an almost 10% participation increase in athletics this year so far, with 2 new sports in volleyball, girls flag football. It's about that making school fun, being connected to your school. If you get up in the morning and you want to get on that train and ride that train, it's a lot more fun than if you get up in the morning and it's going to be torture, okay? And so we have tried to just have more fun activities, just nothing but for the sake of fun. You know, they tried to tattoo teachers with temporary tattoos as a fundraiser. And a lot of the teachers volunteered for it. I didn't think they would, but they actually had quite a few volunteer. But So they're putting all these things, they're having trouble getting them to all happen at the same time, so we're gonna do it all in one day. So if you see a bunch of staff members, I have 43 teachers who are gonna be covered in tattoos, temporary tattoos. If they all look like they just got out of jail or something, you'll know what happened. So we've added Spirit Weeks. We used to just have Spirit Week once a year during homecoming and that kind of stuff. Now we're doing it every trimester, so 3 times a year. We even have an undercover staff Spirit Week that we don't tell the kids about. And so every once in a while the kids are just looking at all the teachers, like yesterday was our undercover day, and we were all dressed in black. We looked like we were having a really bad funeral. Everybody was head to toe in black. And we don't announce this to the kids, but we want to see if the kids will pick up on it. We've done a lot of weird little things like that. And it's a lot of fun. It's fun for the adults too. I want them to have fun. I want them to work as a team, because there's no I in team, as they say, right? And my staff is being amazing this year. Everybody chips in. I feel like our ESPs, you know, they're an equal part of my staff, and they do a wonderful job of just helping teach those kids and work with those kids. And I always root for the ESPs, because I feel like they don't have to do these jobs. They want to do these jobs. And so it's very good that we have such wonderful people. We have 43 teachers, by the way, at the high school, and 26 ESPs. So it's a big staff, and I've got wonderful assistant principals in Jim Taylor and Scott. They have been amazing, and I've known for 20 years, but this is the first time we've worked together like this. And Jim, of course, has been there for a long time, and he is just engorged in the sports world. He loves it. And so, but they're also working together on my goals and their goals in the same way. I had them do the same kind of goals, and we're focused on those areas, and we're working really well on them. We do have an advisory program that I started many years ago. I talked the principal into doing it. He didn't want to do it, but I talked him into it. We use Character Strong as well, and Sources of Strength. The difference between those two, though, is Character Strong is SEL based. It's relationship skills, kindness, responsibility, perseverance. But the Sources of Strength one we use mostly for mental health and suicide prevention. So it's very important that we use both. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, was asking if we really needed both of those, and I said, yes, we do. We use both of those things. We had the motivational guest speakers. We worked with the middle school on that, getting Jamar Root to come in. He was incredible. I loved I came up here to watch his assembly at the middle school. Those middle school kids thought they had some Hollywood actor here. They were all getting his signature and taking pictures with him. High school kids are a little too cool for that. Some of them did come down and get pictures with him.
Yeah, that's one of the pictures that I put in.
Yeah.
He looks like he could be in middle school.
Yeah, and they were solidly paying attention to him. You had hundreds of middle school kids all sitting there listening. It was amazing. And he did the same thing at the high school. We've got another person called Ernesto Meja. He's actually in a partnership with the migrant program, going to come and speak to our kids about May 4th. If anybody wants to come and listen, you're welcome. He's going to come and talk to our kids about being in school, the importance of attendance and the importance of being there. And then not only when you're there, but also choosing something that you like and being involved in it. He's got a great story to tell kids. Both of these guys are national speakers. They travel the circuit around the United States, and they've just incredible stories. So we are also doing our Youth Truth Survey, as the rest of the district is. Ours are all going to be done on Monday. We have a special schedule next Monday to do the Youth Truth Survey. I am pushing very hard for our parents to participate in this. I think we had one of the lowest parent participation rates of any school in the district last year. We asked parents to do it, and they go, oh yeah, okay. And then they don't do it. So we had a parent night last week, and I made a whole bunch of half-page flyers and QR codes, and I was literally standing there giving them out to parents at the parent meeting, and we're over 50 parents, but that's not enough. I'm trying to get to 100. We had 15 parents do it last year. So we're really trying to improve that number. We want the parent feedback. And you know the 15 did it were not happy people. They were not. Nothing was right. But hopefully some of these people are going to be happier. So next one. So attendance, once again, we have a building attendance team just like all the other schools, admin, teachers, ESPs. We look at the attendance reports. Deb and Monica help us pull those out weekly. This is something I've tasked Ann Scott, my vice principal. She's all over it. We basically divide the kids into the ones that are absent anyway. They're into either tier 2, which are consistent, unexcused absences, but not chronic. There are also a lot of tardies and late arrivals in that group. And a lot of that we've been doing, trying to find fun ways to encourage them to be there more on time, and it's working. It really is. We're also working on our fourth period tardy problem, and fourth period is the period right after lunch. And so it's real easy to just spend a little bit extra time at Taco Bell and not go back to school. So we are working on that, and Jim and Ann both are really doing a great job of getting on those kids and saying, hey, you need to be back here and you need to be in class. There's no excuse. The tier 3 are those chronic absent kids, and they're the ones that they have lots of struggles, not just for absence, but tough life sometimes. And we're trying to find what barriers they have individually through surveys or questionnaires, or using our youth outreach worker to talk to them and their families to say, hey, what can we do? How can we help you to be in school? And it's a tough thing. You still got to do it case by case, kid by kid. Every one of them's a little bit different. So, and then we've posted a lot of signs. The kids have actually made signs around the school to remind them to get to class on time. I love it. Every day the announcements are done in the school by the kids. And they always have, this is your daily reminder to make sure you come to school, and when you get here, turn off your cell phone and put it away and don't take it out all day. They say that every day to their fellow peers, and it's great. By the way, the cell phone thing, great successes, wonderful feedback. We've gotten to the point where out of 700 kids, we're having 1 to 2 violations a day maybe, and it's not even that some days. So it's way, way down. Kids are engaging, kids are listening. It's easier on the teachers to not have to constantly be dealing with that. Let's go on. I shouldn't be talking this long. I'm trying to say poor Donna. It's Donna here, so she always ends up at the end. We got to fix that next time. So this is our on-track graduation rate, and this is my big bully pulpit issue, okay? So there's been a lot of research over the years in students and trying to predict which students will graduate and which ones won't. And the number one predictor of whether a student will graduate from high school or not is if they're on track to graduate at the end of their 9th grade year. That's huge. It's amazing. When I started learning about this, I've been digging into the research and looking at all sorts of different studies and stuff. And you will see that right now on this scale, we have, as of the end of Tri 2, we have 21.2% of our freshmen are not on track to graduate. Now that doesn't mean that they're not going to graduate, or we're going to have 21% of our kids drop out of school. But what it means is we need to work on those kids. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you can see by the time they get to be seniors, we've drastically reduced that. And even then, our actual graduation rate is better than that. It's even higher. So we even take some of those 8.1% that are not on track to graduate at this point, and our counselors and our teachers work miracles to help those kids get to the finish line. So next one. So these are the school-wide academic goals that we're trying to teach our students in advisory, and this whole working together, going the same direction thing is wonderful, because I've got the teachers at the high school doing this stuff too. Everybody's sending the same message to the kids. Build strong study habits, complete all your assignments on time, manage your time wisely, participate more in class, and work to improve your GPA. That's the key, and these are the things that we're telling them on a consistent basis across the board. So our TAT, I've looked at it, and it's a great option for kids, but it isn't being used enough. So I've started having the teachers write handwritten, we give them a little form, invitations to 3 to 5 kids a week to come to TAT. It says, Ryan, you are missing this test, and you have these 2 assignments. You could work on them in my TAT. And so that has been bringing a lot more kids into that teacher time, so they can work and bring up their grades. All of this is very important to me also is academic rigor. We don't want to just dummy it all down and not have anything important. Our ultimate goal, of course, as a school is to educate people, and we want them to have a very good education. And so the academic rigor piece, we started having final exam weeks. Some teachers were having final exams, some weren't, very inconsistent, but I want to send the message to the students that you're going to need to show us what you've learned over this period of time. So we have a final exam week where we ask, we don't do announcements, we keep things quiet. It's a test mode kind of a situation, and the teachers are loving that, and they're all giving final exams. The only thing we found out so far is that they're all giving them towards the beginning of final exam week, and then the last couple days the kids have nothing to do. So I've asked, we're going to build a structure, do we spread them out throughout the week so that they are more evenly paced. And then classroom focus walkthroughs, the 3 administrators at the high school. We're kind of just walking through, and then when we get out and we get done, we kind of compare notes and say, hey, what did you see? What did you see today across the school? You know, did you see students being asked appropriate level questions, or are they all just yes or no questions? You know, we want deeper learning questions, and that's what that's one of my big things. You've got to ask them questions that challenge them, not something that is like, do you know why we won the war? Or did we win the war? Yes, no. You know, it's real basic stuff like that. And instead ask them, what are the reasons? Why are we in the situation we're in? And have the kids teach the kids that they can expand upon their answers, and not just the teacher doing all the talking. Next one. Okay, this is my big baby right here. This is what I intend to fix before I retire. So we have a logo on the left-hand side that says Fresh Start. It says, I can't read the goal part, stay on track and succeed, okay? And this is our goal. It's a pathway to get to graduation, right? And this is a test class. This graph represents 15 students that are freshmen in the high school. And in try 1, none of these students had what I'm calling a support class. When you look at all of our kids, you have kids, if you look at their grades and their attendance and their behavior, these are the different kinds of things that we're looking at in order to choose these kids. But I noticed that there was a group of kids that here in middle school, they pass everything, they come to school and they don't get in trouble. And then we had special ed kids. Special ed kids also have a support class. They pass their classes at a much higher rate than, you know, they've got that support person there. They have individualized plans and they do pretty well. And then we have the rest of the kids, the ones that don't have that family support. They don't have the consistency that they need. They're struggling probably in reading and math skills, and those kids don't like school. They just don't. And so you'll notice that's their percentage of their math grade in their first term for each one of those 15 kids. None of them were doing well in math at all. And so I have one of my teachers, Kara Tom, she's amazing, and I asked Kara to run a test class, winter term and spring term. We got a different group in there now. So we have these 15 kids, and now we have another 15 kids doing it right now. And you can see what she did in one term with those kids. All the greens are 6. Look at the grade level changes there. 42 to 73%. You know, almost every kid, except for 3, made drastic improvement. Even those 3 made improvement.
7 to 89?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, it's that right there is amazing. But the thing that the state measures us on, more than anything, is on track to graduate, right? That number. And so if you look at the other 2 columns there, try 1, you can see how many classes. Now, this is out of 5 classes. Some of them failed 3 classes out of 5 classes. They were not doing their part as a student. Under her, they either failed 0 or 1 for the most part. A couple of them failed, but they also, just like I said, it's pretty consistent. Those are things that are, you know, out of our control kind of things for some of those kids. But you can see a dramatic change. We went from 32 classes failed in the first term to 16. We cut it in half. And that is amazing, okay? Considering they're freshmen and all that kind of stuff, but to take somebody being there and saying, I care about you. I want you to succeed every single day. Why don't you work on your math? Why don't you work on your science? Why don't you work on your history? And that's what it can do, okay? And you'll notice the last column there's some of the students are kind of in yellow. The sad thing about all this is those 6 kids, I think it's 6, yes it is, are already not going to be able to complete the year on track to graduate, even if they pass all their classes this term, because they've already made such a big mess of their grades in the first trimester. Now, they have things to fix that. They can go to summer school and earn some credit retrieval and work on that to bring themselves back on track. And we're working on that. We're looking more at the individual student and focusing in on each one of those kids to make sure that they're getting what they need to be successful. And my program, this Fresh Start program, on May 8th, I believe it is, it's a Friday, it's going to be right here in this room. I have chosen out of the 8th grade class, based on the data, based on their attendance, their current grades in middle school, their behavior, and all those kinds of criteria. We put it into a big spreadsheet and we figured it all out. We've chosen 49 kids out of the the current 8th graders to be in this Fresh Start program, and they meet all that criteria. They are kids that we feel like we can have a big impact. Okay, that they're ones that we are going to be able to put them in a support class and hopefully get these same kind of results that we're getting now. We're going to invite them all here. We've invited their parents. We're even serving a spaghetti dinner. And by the way, I didn't know there was a good Italian restaurant up in Goldendale.
Yes.
But apparently they're coming here. The Goldendale restaurant is coming here. They gave us a really good deal to provide dinner for 200 people in this room on that day. And we're going to share with them. We've got special design, fancy invitations that are being mailed out to the family. We're sending them a letter congratulating them on their children being put in this program. It's an opt-out program, so if they don't want their kid in it, they can opt it out. But otherwise, those kids have been opted in. Those 49 kids are in the program. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping that this is going to excite them a little bit, to know, their parents know that we have their kid and we're going to do something for them to help them and bring them along. Because we make so many assumptions about freshmen and kids in general. Staff and teachers are very guilty of this, You go back to like it was when you were in school, things were tough and you just have to come and meet me, the teacher, where I'm at. No, the teachers need to meet the kids where they're at. And so I'm trying to convince my teachers of that, and I'm slowly getting there. Can you switch to the next one? So next year, every one of my teachers in the fall is getting this book, The Make It or Break It Year. It's Solving the Dropout Crisis, one 9th grader at a time. Thank you, Dr. Alley, for pointing this out to me. It's a great book. We're going to read it as a staff, and we're going to talk about it. So that's not just me lecturing them about, high school kids and how freshmen are really a different person. They're kind of an in-between. They're not middle schoolers, and they're not fully high schoolers. We don't want to make assumptions that they know how to be this, because that just creates a group of kids that are throwaway kids. It's awful to assume that these kids, we can't help them because they can't reach this standard up here. And it just shouldn't be that way. And so, like I said, that indicator in 9th grade is frighteningly accurate, that if you are not passing at the end of your 9th grade year, your hopes of graduating are very, very low. It does happen, but only in about 7% of the kids. That's a pretty big indicator that says that many kids aren't going to make it. And so this is something we're going to be working on. Mindset shift is already happening at the high school. We're working on it as part of our PLC time and our staff meeting time. I'm constantly, I feel like I've got a really good group of people there that work really, really hard and make me look good, which is always fun. But they really are putting in a lot of effort and a lot of time, and I feel like we're going to see some really good success over the next few years. And I've also realized how much Donna is able to help kids. How many seniors do you have this year?
We have 73 virtual seniors and 19 in person.
93 kids that are seniors in alternative program. I remember when I first started in this district, we only had 40 people in the whole alternative program, or less. And Donna is getting them across the finish line. She is getting them to graduate too. So we're not losing those kids either just because they went to an alternative program. It shouldn't be looked that way. I think the kids that are there are also thriving under Donna's leadership. And I'm just really happy to be working with her and the middle school and all the elementary schools, because I feel like our train is finally all heading in one direction. So there you go.
It's a nice closure. Fun, Bill. Bill loves fun.
Yes, he does.
When you say fun with Phil.
We just you get it, Phil. If you're not having fun, you're probably not learning.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
When we have our back to school days in August with the staff, we have sessions called Fun with Phil. So they
Good.
they called it that for many years. They came up with that.
But you are gifted to be able to bring fun and know, and especially in this environment, any environment, fun is so vital. So how lovely that you can bring that to the staff, allow them, give them permission to have fun with the
Yes.
undercover day.
Yes.
Really letting them be kids in this, or just letting everybody see that you can have fun, doesn't matter what age or position you are
That's right.
in. So way to go, Phil, on the fun. Sorry. Yeah, it is fun to say. I noted that, I already drops off at K-8, now you're in no man's land. So that's tricky.
It is because the kids spread out into all these different subject areas. You know, I could go on all night long
Sure,
too.
yeah.
Like CTE program is really flourishing now. We have a new CTE director in Leanne Neal, and she's doing a great job of building that up. And I can see that really taking off. Our teachers, our CTE teachers, got a $25,000 grant from Google to build a CTE lab in our school.
Nice.
We chose a classroom. I don't really have any extra classrooms. We designated it to be a CTE lab, and now the kids are starting. I want those kids hands-on with that equipment. I want them to be able to use it. That's what it's for. And everybody's working great, so
Oh,
we're
that's
moving.
fantastic. So, yeah, and I see, you know, the measures drop off. You don't have Ready to Lead on, but you identified ninth grade.
Yeah.
And I would like a copy of that book, please.
Yes.
I would like to read it with
I
you.
ordered some extra ones, so
Oh,
we're
very
glad to give you
good,
one.
yeah. And I just love, again, that the handwritten note comes up. This is a low-tech item. Director Kramer is big on the handwritten notes and the power of them, and you have demonstrated that there. And how beautiful that you used your data in this big blue and red Christmas chart to identify this gap.
Yep.
And the potential. And I think anytime you bring up these 15 kids, you bring up everybody.
Yep.
And so really, really wise and fascinating how you identified that, and that Caraton worked with you to show that these kids are not throwaway. They just need a little extra care.
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
I think it's also significant, it's a 15-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a small group, you know, focused.
And if we did that K through 3,
Yep.
we might not have the same
Yeah.
issues.
Sure. Yeah, because you can catch them in the moment. You can support them in the moment. I mean, all learning is, you know, works best when you are correcting them in the moment and you're at the level they're at, not asking them to work above or whatever.
Yeah.
So, fun with Phil. Thank you.
Definitely, yes, anytime.
Thank you for, thank you for the
Need a little
work
fun,
you
just
did.
give me a call.
Yeah, it was good to hear the vibe was good. And
Yes,
so
it is. It's a different place.
So nice. So nice. Cool. Thank you. And you're, yeah, one other round. All right, Donna, bring us home. Let's go, Donna.
Yes.
I'm gonna follow suit and stand up here.
There we go. That's a girl.
Phil, thank you, and you continue to inspire me from the beginning of my career as a science teacher to now, and you've been a role model, and I'm really thrilled to be part of this team, and as well, I am very happy to wake up in the morning and come to work. I enjoy my job most days, you know, enjoy the overall job, and appreciate the opportunity to work with at-risk kids in the Gorge community. So one of the things that's complex, this is my third full year of being a principal, so this is the third start of the school year that I've had. We are a K-12 virtual program, which has some complexities, and then there's our in-person school that is now exclusively 9-12. We needed to make a decision as our belts were kind of squeezing the focus on a high school, so we grew out our middle school program into our now exclusive in-person high school. And in doing so, I think that we have a lot of improvement in engagement and teacher retention and quality of our classes. And so moving forward, thinking about this year, it's very exciting. There's a lot of great things happening. Discipline-wise, the school's very calm. The environment is one of growing and learning and being humble and growing together, and acknowledging that we learn failure and we pick ourselves up with resilience. And we actually have a guest speaker coming in that is a local from Dufour. His name's Jack Frakes, and he is quadriplegic. And he has quite a story to share about bullying and resilience and change. And he will be at the school on Wednesday, the 15th, next week. And we've invited our North Fork students to come, the Kelly Avenue students to join us, and as well as our Innovations Virtual School and in person. So that will be in the gym. If any of you would like to come over and say hi, that'll be at 10:30. So as we get into talk about data a little bit and then more specifics, Our ready data, this is K-8, so this isn't an exact comparable to what you were just looking at. So this is K-8 combined, so it's not separated out by the elementary and the middle school. The elementary right now has 11 students in it, so it's a relatively small portion of our program, K-8, and I think we're around 50 middle schoolers at the moment. And really this data tells a story of what types of students we have. And yes, in Dr. Ivy's explanation of a moment in time and how well they're doing on the test, our students that are online have computer literacy. So this test is computer-based, and it makes sense that they would perform at a higher achieving level because they have removed some barriers. And they're also, one of the things that when I first came in, all of the tests were requiring our virtual students to come in person. It was kind of a heavy lift to get everyone trained and get ODE on board with us doing some testing at home, but we do the testing while they're at home, and it's proctored by the teacher. So this is also their anxiety levels are probably lower, given that they have a quiet environment. So, and also a lot of our students, they're either very high functioning and they have a lot of home support, or they're the absolute opposite. They're low functioning with very little family support. And there's many reasons why students are joining the virtual academy, and as of today, we have 333 students in the virtuals, in the whole school combined, in all school. I can't remember what we have. 243, something like that. So we have growing pains at the moment, and we're coming up with some really great strategies, and I have a 2-year plan to work on some efficiency to take care of maybe some staffing needs and to grow our school as effectively with minimal financial impact to the district to continue to serve our virtual and our in-person students equitably. And then in addition, I was looking at, our students did perform quite well, and they're growing with their reading and their math scores collectively. And I'll just continue to talk about data for a minute. So 9th grade on track, go ahead, I just did this a little bit differently than Phil, but similar numbers. We have 81.3% of our 9th graders are on track in our in-person program. And that number stayed exactly the same from T1 to T2, which is good because we get a lot of transfers at T2 and T3, and it really changes those numbers. So we have to understand that most of the students that are coming into our program are coming there because they're off track. So getting them back on track. This 8th grade year is going to look, our 8th grade that moved into 9th grade this year were part of our middle school growth program. So I imagine that these numbers are going to be a little lower next year because we're not having that 8th grade in-person growth year to work with these kids before they get off track, if you will. So, but that's what Phil's program is doing, and I look forward to collaborating more as we are, working and bringing that focal point forward. The Innovations Virtual School is struggling with the 9th grade on track, and some of these students are honestly just kind of quietly failing. So what this data is informing me is that we need to work harder on intervention, and just tomorrow, CJ and Mr. Burrow, my assistant principal, are going to do a home visit for some students that have been tenure dropped in Innovations Virtual Academy. One struggle and challenge that we have is that our youth outreach worker does not work with our virtual school. They only work with our in-person school, and we are a little short-staffed when it comes to people power to be able to do really intense outreach and also mental health supports for the virtual school. So again, those things are in motion to create improvement plans for next year. And meanwhile, we have many systems that I'll talk about that we're doing now to improve until we can get to a higher level long-term improvement plan. As far as looking at credit retrieval, what I decided to do with this slide is that I looked at all of the classes that a student attempted, like all of them, 9, 12, and then took the percentage of classes that they gained high school credit for to be able to just look at a bigger, broader 9 through 12 picture of what's happening academically with both programs. And as we look at Innovations Academy in person, there's a slight increase from trimester 1 to trimester 2 in credit retrieval, and it's approximately around 75% and growing. So I have a trajectory kind of predicting line that hopefully we'll get closer to that 80% of students passing 80% of the classes and retrieving 80% of their goal towards graduation, which this would keep them primarily on track, given our trimester system, that in 4 years, at that rate, they would stay on track on average. So I'm pretty pleased by this number, and it's really indicative that we are able to help these students gain skills and gain their credit retrieval in an equitable way. And we are really majorly focused on deeper learning and project-based learning that AJ spoke highly of, and our team is doing very well with that. And I'm walking around in year 3, I'm like, it's happening. And there's some joy. There's teachers that are co-teaching, they're theme teaching, and things are really moving in the right direction in the in-person school. And it's exciting to see that change and that growth. And I expect that we'll continue to grow that. And we're working on a plan now to identify students that are in the Innovations Virtual, and I have a new plan. It's an academic success plan that identifies students that are in an attended drop cycle and or they're failing 50% or more of their classes. And I'm going to be doing that next week and sending out letters to parents and students requiring them to come to a teacher access time, and we'll put that class in PowerSchool and take attendance. Because one of the things with virtual school is that they just weren't showing up to their teacher access times. It's just a Google Meet, so there's really no way to hold them accountable for that attendance. And then we have another tier of support after that that we'll talk about having them come in person and get some interventions that will be structured in person. And we're working on what that looks like for next year, of being able to provide more of those supports and more of a hybrid learning model for those at-risk students. So as we move forward, I hope that we can really grow that number. So as you can see that several of the Innovations Virtual students are not at a number of being on track as they move forward if we're looking at this collectively. So it's around 55% of the students are passing their classes that they're taking. T3 definitely changes. They get very motivated, especially in the senior group. They're like, oh, last stop. And then they get that, they work on their classes day and night. And well, I definitely know that we will see those numbers, percentage go up for trimester 3. But another challenge we have is we did just onboard, I think, 34 students just in the last, for T3. So in middle school and high school, and that onboarding process is actually pretty arduous. And as you said, like getting to know them and understanding what their deficiencies are in a fast way, and then creating a graduation plan for them last minute takes some finesse. And we have been, I will tell you, my team is just working day and night, and they are so dedicated, and I'm very, very proud of my teaching team. So, next slide. Again, not dissimilar to the other schools, our academic goals, our student experience, are all related to the district goals. And as I move through those, the student experience is really to bring a sense of belonging and for us to identify what kinds of supports that they need and give them a sense of belonging and a sense of community to be able to share and be vulnerable and get the help they need to be able to move forward. So our attendance goal is surrounded by student engagement, and project-based learning is really, we're also looking at data sets and collecting data, and we'll talk a little more about that. And then, yeah, go ahead. So as far as the student experience, it's students complete of surveys done each term, and we're gaining some really good internal data. Because oftentimes, as Phil mentioned, the students, especially in the spring, the high school students, have a lot of other things on their minds. And they're not as amenable to sitting down and doing surveys, and it's difficult. We had a small subgroup last year as well in the U-True survey, and we're looking to improve that. But one of the things that we're doing is we're finding that students are feeling safe at school. They're feeling a sense of belonging. And we do have an ASB that it's in its second year of formation, and it's growing, and that's also helping. And the ASB is doing assemblies and that are student-led and inspired, and we emulate Spirit Week that's happening at high school at the same time to try to have collaboration and to encourage students to participate in the sporting events and the dances that often follow the Spirit Weeks, so that we have a collective community of our high schools, as well as we utilize Character Strong. We don't have sources of strength. It's something that we'd like to move forward with, but one step at a time, one growth goal at a time. But during our advisory time, we have targeted interventions with data points that we're pulling weekly based on attendance and grades, as well as feedback from teachers. So every Friday we have a PLC that we talk about student engagement and strategies for individuals. And we also do that with the virtual school. We have an IPT team, and we talk about students about an hour and a half a week collectively as a team to come up with strategies to pull them forward. And the most at-risk students, we make sure that we're reaching out to them multiple modalities, multiple times a week, which takes a lot of dedication and manpower, but we're doing it, and we're seeing some results with that as well. And attendance goals, very similar to the other student experience surveys, are part of this, getting down to the root cause. Our attendance team meets bi-weekly, so we are talking about attendance twice a week, and doing whatever we can to collaborate on an effort to get these students back at school, or to just engage them and help them. And we really worry about our students when we're not hearing from them or seeing them for a while, and reaching out. So academic goals, I already kind of touched on this, but talking about getting them up to grade level standards. We meet students where they're at, we form individualized plans. We're using Edgenuity, which is our virtual program, and it's highly modifiable, and our teachers are growing and learning that program now, and it's having a lot of success with our students that are performing below grade level. And we're beginning to use that also in our in-person school, so that we can target that. We have a learning lab this year for the first time, and that's a 9 through 12 place where our in-person students can take classes that we don't offer because of our small schedule and our small master schedule, to be able to fill in the spaces to get their pathway towards graduation. And also we can modify those classes to meet their special needs. And
That's it.
We're done.
Yay! Donna, what a unique environment you have. One word I wrote was intensity. You know, you're serving twice. Everything is very personalized. You're jumping on it pretty quick. You have bi-weekly attendance, all that. So, and you mentioned many times how hard your staff works, and yeah. So I mean, the intensity to preserve these kids from disappearing, from not having a high school education is intense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is intense.
You must be every day pins and needles. Is that kid gonna make it? Is he gonna make it?
It's kind of an exciting atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it is a roller coaster, isn't it? It is.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Feels on a train and on a roller coaster.
There you go. I think that's right. I think that's right. And so it's just amazing. And then the fact that you're going to onboard 34 students in T3, oh heavens. Yeah. So the very fascinating what you've identified in your data for the virtual school. You're either high performing or you're not. And why are you in there and what's happening? And so I think those home visits are going to be super insightful.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of actionable data because that's another place where children go to disappear.
Yes.
And families and everything.
Yes,
And-
yes, and yeah, their anxiety gets to a point, or
Yeah.
their mental health, or whatever it is, their physical health. There's a
Whatever.
lot of students that are actually having a lot of, a physical health challenge, and it's difficult for them.
Yeah, signs of trauma.
Yeah, and almost like when they first come in, it's just a pause. And I often see that it takes at least one trimester for them just to regain their sense of self and be ready to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have such a difference between, the virtual is also a place where it's, high performing, super supported, families, all that stuff. But then you got this other group, and I don't even know how that works when they're all mixed together. I mean, they're not really mixed, but
Yeah, it's really challenging to differentiate the instruction. for
Yeah.
them because of the nature of the program. It's actually very rigorous. It's like imagine like an entire chemistry book. That's what they get. That's what they start with, and then the teacher has to go through and pick and choose what's going to work for this group. And in person, that's a more fluid process, and pacing is a more fluid process. Like you might say, oh, we're not going to get to this unit. We're going to have to scrap that lab. But on the online team, they have to do those students have to do all of it. And so we're growing and learning in that process of how do we differentiate the instruction.
Yeah.
And we've been growing in that capacity, especially because we're piloting a new curriculum this year.
Okay.
So that's been a big piece of that.
yeah.
And I didn't mention to you, but I'm running the Northport program as well.
Yes,
So-
yes, that's right,
so
which
there
has
too.
been-
But I don't have any data points to talk about.
That's okay, 'cause you graduated 5 or something, which is your data point.
Yeah.
And, just hearing amazing things about those kids and the opportunity that you give them not only educationally, and then other sports are getting out there, so that's pretty fantastic. That's been the most successful that program's ever been, I think.
Yeah, there's some really good successful situations.
Yeah, so.
And we have more and more because of that. They're getting more contracts with the Oregon Youth Authority, and we're getting more long-term students there instead of so there's 2 different subgroups of students. There's detention students that are there before they're sentenced and they have court, and then there's the students that are carrying out their sentence and they are in a program and they're there for 3 months. So it gives our team more time to be able to focus on their health, their mental health, their academic goals, etc.
Yeah.
But very similar modalities and trainings.
Yeah, a good fit. So you're a specialist on this salvage operation.
It's true. That's a great way to say it. We are salvaging lots of good things.
But, we're salvaging, right? There's still value there.
A lot of
Still
them.
value. Yeah, and the effort and the intensity, that can't be lost on the children.
Exactly.
So, that just the idea that you show up every day enthused and then they go, oh my gosh, I guess somebody cares.
There's a lot
So,
of love.
thank you.
Yeah, that's the key.
A lot of love.
A lot of love. Takes
There's a
love,
lot of
man.
love.
Takes
Yeah.
love.
Lots of love. Well, it takes a village, and I'm very appreciative of all the collaboration. So my school really is a collaboration of all the other K-12 programs, and it's great to be part of this group.
Awesome. Yeah. Plus very diverse what you're doing there. So well done, ma'am.
There are a few more, just a couple more things to talk about. Regular attendance, or attendance data. A couple things CJ's going to talk about with attendance, since that is one of our main focuses this year. So take it away, CJ.
Okay. And we are a little over time, so I'm going to curtail some of the things I was going to say. Plus, a lot of things have already been spoke about tonight about what's going on in schools and attendance and stuff. From the district level, I could say that one of the first goals, after getting a framework done, is to make attendance a topic that's on everybody's mind all the time. It's the one denominator that flows through every single topic you have in school. Because if kids aren't here, they're not learning, they're not doing the sports, they're not in the clubs, they're not in activities. So that's why the next couple slides are kind of difficult for me, similar to Sharon. Look, is like, but I'll get to the explanation here. So There's a lot of things going, and Phil was talking about the train going every week to the roller coaster. Sometimes the analogy I would use is sometimes I feel like I'm on a tug of war, and the person in front of me is looking at me and pulling the other way. I'm like, no. We're all have to pull this way, right? And so when we look at our attendance data from trimester 1 to trimester 2, we can see that we did have declines in daily attendance for all schools with the trimester 1 and trimester 2. And it's one of those, you see the data pop up, and it's a little bit of a gut-wrenching sort of a feel when you see this stuff. However, for me at least, and I think and what we're trying to do is we have to understand that the data is something we're interpreting and we're looking at, and we have to follow our own process. And our own process says, why is that? We got to go find out why this is the way it is. We need to talk to people. And this is very much a community-wide topic, attendance in schools. So where I feel like where we're at right now in our schools is we are getting the traction. It is a topic. Everybody's pulling the same direction. And the next step might be to start getting more of the community aware of the importance of attending school. And we're doing some of that with Youth Wellness Collaborative, or spoke at Kiwanis a couple of weeks ago, or today I was at the Youth Think, Lead and Learn, and we talked about attendance there. So these numbers can get you at first, and then we see that all schools trimester 1 or trimester 2 went down for this. And this is for regular attenders. So these are kids that are attending 90% more, or 90% of days or more. They're the regular attenders. It's different than like daily attendance stuff. But then I thought, well, what the heck's going on between trimester 1 and trimester 2? So I looked at this a little more closely and realized, well, in trimester 2, we saw a 41% increase in excused absences, a 90% increase in illness absences, a 63% increase in other absences, and a 65% increase in unexcused absences. And then something I'm working on with the data team on is the whole category dropped off. That's why these colors are so confusing. But the excused absence half day, we had like 476 of them in trimester 1, there was 0 and 2. I think that is probably more of a data entry situation than anything. But so when you look at it, the first thing you have to do is go, why is that? And we have a lot more illnesses, and there are some I think you heard it a couple times tonight about the things that are within our control and the things that aren't within our control. And those are the things we're really working on, also understanding and accepting. So that's a real quick curtailed look at regular attendance data. So, any questions?
I would just also add that in the wintertime, not only we have illnesses and stuff like that, but there are families who take their whole family and go places. They go out of the country, they go wherever. That's a very common thing in this community. And we try to keep those kids engaged. We send their Chromebooks with them, and we try to keep them going, even though they're not in the classroom every day. So we don't want them to fall apart. Some of them are gone for weeks.
And then the other thing that we're noticing is that our lowest attendance, we're talking like 50% or less, through the work of the YOW and the attendance team, we're pulling them back into school. So they're there, but still not a lot. So we do have some kids who are throwing it off way disproportionately in this data, but we're celebrating the fact that they're showing up at all.
Exactly.
So it's kind of one of those things where you dive down into the individual cases, which is what our attendance teams do. You start to see, oh yeah, they're hardly ever here, but they're here again.
It was also a topic of scale.
Builds on it,
I have capped out.
I try to point this out to community partners anywhere I go. It's like, if I say 20% of the kids, I'm talking about 560 kids. So that's a lot of contact. That's a lot of individualized case management stuff. And sometimes I think that gets lost on community partners is the scale that we're talking about. Like 10 or 15, the scale of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
10 or 15 kids isn't necessarily a caseload when you're in education. Our numbers are much larger than what a lot of people are experiencing or dealing with. So.
And CJ, I would also say if we had had a more harsh winter, a more normal winter, I think you'd even see a bigger dip in the Tri-2. A lot of families can't get their kids to school when the weather's bad. You know, they're out in the middle of nowhere or wherever it is, and it's very difficult for them. And we see that historically year after year after year. I don't think that this is a new trend or something that's just happening. I think if we went back and looked at this data over the years, we would see the midwinter dip. And I would also expect that in the spring that our data improves, because there's a lot of difficulty in the shorter days, the illnesses, the winter conditions, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and even though we had a milder winter, we had a really tough illness, not
Yes.
just with kids, but staff.
Yes.
It was across the board that I think really impacted trimester 2.
Yes.
But even with that, every school made growth
Yep.
between trimester 1 and trimester 2 academically, which is amazing.
Yeah, right, that's true.
I mean, when you look
Good
at
point.
our
Yeah.
attendance going down, yet our academic growth is continuing to go up, we should celebrate that.
Yes.
Because I would have expected the opposite
Yes.
to happen, so.
One of the interesting things that I see is virtual has like a -14. All you gotta do is like open the laptop, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta do it. No, there's two different Innovations Virtual, the school law is different regarding virtual attendance. So they need to come to their advisory time, which is at 10 o'clock every day for the high school anyway. And then the elementary has, and middle school also has advisory time that they attend with the in-person team.
Was that the part you were talking about, hours, adding it to Power School?
No, I'm going to add an additional time for them to be able to get tutoring time and study groups. But this is a social emotional learning time and a check-in with the teacher. And then beyond that, they need to work in the classes for a minimum of an hour a day. So they can't just open it up and there's idle time versus it like tracks them versus them actually working in their classes. So they need to be able to be on track and on pace. Another part of that we look at is that weekly, if they're not making progress, then they're in negative attendance because they're not on pace to finish the class on time. So there's several different nuances to the virtual attendance piece, but and it is difficult, you know, and for some of them, it's just they're not supported at home, and that's kind of the thing we're looking at. So yeah, there's challenges there that we are addressing as a team, but it's going to be, it's a heavy lift.
Something I've noticed with the virtual students too is that sometimes it isn't the kid's choice. A lot of times it isn't the kid's choice. The parent is choosing
Stay home
to
to
take the
babysit
kid
the
out
baby.
and put them online because they think it's going to fix something. You know, there are a lot of that. They think that they're going to be able to get caught up. They don't realize it's just like COVID. We saw in COVID how difficult it was to educate kids over a computer. And they don't realize how tough it is to do just fully online without anybody there to help them, and it's a challenge. Some kids flourish during COVID.
And interestingly enough, I just pulled data that we just got this week, and we looked at their attendance and their grades and the correlation. And surprisingly, there are several students that they're in negative attendance. That's because they do their work on the weekends because they're working. So they have negative attendance because they can't attend the advisory, and they're not working because we have to take attendance before 4 o'clock that day, and then they work at night. So if you're working at night and on the weekends, you have terrible negative attendance, but they're passing other classes because they're working in their interest classes. So it's this strange thing where we can't go back and change it. We've tried to see if we could give them attendance for the next day if they work at night, but we can't. So by school law, we have to give them attendance within school hours that we're open and the teachers are available. So we have a little bit of a problem with, it doesn't always correlate with their success in the program, but more often it is that if they're not attending, they're not passing their
And
classes.
then I imagine that affects funding somehow.
Well,
No, it doesn't
no,
affect
the only
them.
the only thing that affects that would be 10-day dropping them.
Okay.
And as long as the teacher is making contact with them, we can keep their attendances up enough that we don't 10-day drop them. But, so it doesn't affect funding.
It doesn't affect funding.
Until they're in a 10-day drop cycle.
Like anything. Are the virtual kids funded the same as any other?
Yes, they are.
It's not affecting funding, but it is affecting like our overall regular attender.
Yeah, data.
It is,
pulls on
it does
data.
affect
pulls
the
on the
data in a
Yeah.
strange way that isn't necessarily 100% informative or accurate.
Right, as bad. In fact, it's good. They're able to do all in.
Yes, and that's why we wanted to start to look at those data sets in a different way to make better informed decisions about ways that we can engage those students and that they're going to be receptive to.
Yeah, I like that, ways they're gonna be receptive to.
Yeah, and flexible for lots of different schedules.
Which is by a huge part of that innovations is flexibility.
Any closing reflections or thoughts, questions from our board members? Threw a lot at you tonight. It's a lot to digest.
Freezing this room.
Freezing
it here.
here.
Jose, you haven't, I've talked a lot. Jose, do you have any comments?
All good stuff. So thank you, first of all, to all of the administrators who spoke today. You guys are all doing things that I think meet the student body that exists within each of your buildings. So thank you for that. I think the thing that I'm still kind of processing in my head is just what CJ said is the scale, and I think that gets lost a lot. When you talk about percentages, like 15 or 20 may not seem a lot, but when you expand that over the course of our entire student population, I mean, you are talking 500 plus kids. And to me, like as we head into now budget season, right, start looking at, you know, I see a resource challenge in terms of like, all right, if we need to touch base with kids, and if I'm using, you know, Mr. Kramer's, you know, 1 to 15 ratio that he rattled off earlier in this conversation, I mean, like, holy cow, where does that come from? Not only just people, bodies, right, but just the funding associated, because, you know, to expect that that's going to be a volunteer service, I think would be a little foolish, but I think it also then speaks to me, like, gosh, the amazing work that is taking place with the limited resources, with the limited bodies that we have, especially with even Principal Schultz said innovations, like, yeah, there is a lot of high touch. We see the example that Principal Williams gave of those 15 students and the tremendous progress with that touch point, that adult, and like, you know, how do we replicate that and how do we kind of maneuver that to be able to illustrate that kind of success model. Very much now in my head with the gears turning, but yeah, great, I mean, all around great work, but that's kind of where my mind is wrapping up the evening.
Director Kramer, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I think the real target, when I was teaching in the Stone Age, it was a situation where students, when they got to the high school level, and I taught language arts 9 through 12, they leveled off for the most part. My wife, on the other hand, was teaching second grade Chenoweth primary for 34 years. I didn't see a lot of the students that she had. They didn't make it to the high school level, sadly. I think an effort to alleviate pressure at the elementary levels would be a huge factor in student success down the road. ESPs, I think, could help alleviate and produce some of the results we saw with Phil's program. And I think that's an economically feasible alternative to having a first grade classroom with 25 kids. And with the numbers I'm looking at here, 2 and 3 grade levels below reading, I just think they need some real help in that area. It's a long-term solution to see the benefits, 12 years later, but I think it's worth a study. I know Tennessee in their STARS program did that. And at the end of 4 years, by the time the kids reached 4th grade, they had demographics similar to ours. Students from impoverished areas had caught up with their peers, and in 4th grade they were had made huge gains. I think that's something we should look at. Funding. I think, you know, I hate to be this way, but truancy is child abuse. And the parents in our district, we've only got 15% nationwide of parents that are reading to their children prior to first grade. I mean, that's an issue.
Yes.
And it's not fair to dump it on educators, you know, to all of a sudden it's their fault. Well, I tell you, it's...
The Oregon State Legislature is taking up class size next session, by the way. It's one of their things they want to focus on and kind of talk about. So maybe that will have an effect on some funding and that kind of stuff. Because Oregon's one of the states that does not have in most of their contracts, in most of their districts, any kind of class size funding. So it's something we really need to have.
I know Texas has a class size deal.
Yeah, a lot of states do.
And they do it per diem if the teacher's overloaded.
Yep.
So that kind of...
Either the teacher gets extra money or they get extra support and staffing. So
I think that's would be a huge thing. I think in athletics you want it's a numbers game. But in an elementary classroom, I think it would be more bodies in the classroom.
yeah.
Awesome. Director Jones, do you have any comments?
The only thing I wanted to say is when we talk about having to like being in school, it reminds me of when Dr. Bernal and I were down at Normcore, that one guy that was in and out, and he finally graduated.
Yay. You like being in there.
Because he was going to the school in Denver.
Yep.
Director Pauline.
Yeah, so one thing I was thinking about, this whole education thing reminds me of, you know, you got cherries on your shirt there. Takes about 7 years to get to that first good crop. And
Good point.
it's a long-term investment to get that tree in the ground to start to bear fruit. So
There you go. No
Nice
nice
job.
trees.
Way to rattle
Look
it
at that.
out.
There you go. Look at, did you peek?
No, I
Did you
didn't.
peek ahead?
No, didn't.
Yeah, communications, that's
Well
lovely.
played.
And I think with the investments in the science of reading, that's going to help change that.
Yes.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Very good. I would like to close with an acknowledgement that you all made, but maybe didn't attribute, but I'm going to attribute it now, and that is to Dr. Bernal being the leader that got you all pulling in the same direction. I thought that was a really effective strategy, that every school had the same basic 3 things, and there are 4 things, right?
Yep.
You should be excited about those things and working on those things. So I
Stay
like.
excited because they're going to be the same.
Now you're going to see them again.
Measure growth over time.
Consistency, yes.
Yeah. You get 1 elective. So you should make it complicated.
An elective goal, I like that.
They have choices.
So thank you, because that is the key. If you don't have a strong leader telling and helping and supporting and giving guidance like that to get us all pulling in the same direction, then it would be chaotic, right? And unsupported. So thank you very much, Dr. Bernal, and everybody who spent the time this evening to go gather. Thank you, because you've been with I expect, and gather all the data, and then to work on it and take it seriously and find ways that you can make a difference and the things that you can control. I appreciate that you're using your agency to make a difference. So thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.